Hi there. Have you received an HMRC benefit decision you believe is wrong? Don't ignore it. In this video, we'll show you exactly how to challenge and appeal it step by step.
You know that feeling, right? You open a letter from HMRC and your stomach just drops. You're looking at a decision about your benefits and you just know it's wrong. It's frustrating, it's stressful, and honestly, it can feel completely final. But here's the thing, and I really want you to hear this. In 2026, you absolutely do not have to just accept a wrong decision. The system isn't designed to be a one-way street. It's actually built to be challenged. It has fairness baked right into it. So, let's switch from feeling powerless to feeling prepared. So, let's get into it. We're going to walk through step by step exactly how to challenge and appeal a benefit decision from HMRC. And just so you know, all this guidance comes straight from the expert tax advisors at My Tax Accountant, so you know you're getting a clear, professional roadmap. Here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with that sinking feeling and your right to challenge. Then, we'll look at the crucial first step, called a mandatory reconsideration. After that, we'll talk about building a strong case, what happens when you appeal to a tribunal, what their decision really means, and finally, know when it's time to get some expert help.
Okay, so let's go right back to that moment you get the bad news. The frustration is totally understandable, but the most powerful thing to remember is this. You have a legal right to question their decision. It doesn't matter if it's a simple calculation error or if they've completely overlooked a key piece of your evidence. There's a formal process just for you.
And this isn't just for one or two obscure benefits. We're talking about a whole range of them. Things like universal credit, child benefit, personal independence payment or PIP, carer's allowance, ESA, tax credits, the list goes on. So the chances are pretty high that if you've got a decision you disagree with, this applies to you.
Right. So where do you even start? Well, your first move isn't what most people think of as an appeal. It's something called a mandatory reconsideration. You'll want to hear this part. The most important word in that phrase is mandatory.
So what is it exactly? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's you formally asking HMRC to have another look at their own decision. The key thing here is that it's looked at with fresh eyes. It won't go back to the same person. A different decision maker reviews your case from scratch. And this catches so many people out. You absolutely cannot skip this step. If you want to appeal later, you have to do this first. And this is absolutely crucial. You have 1 month. That's it. Just 1 month from the date on that decision letter to ask for a reconsideration. Now, there are some rare exceptions, if you were in the hospital or something very serious happened, but my tip is to treat this deadline as solid. Don't put it off.
Let's make this simple. How do you actually do it? First, grab that decision letter. The contact details you need are right on there. You can call them, but a pro tip is to always follow up in writing. For some benefits, like child benefit, there's a specific form, CH-24A. In your request, be crystal clear about why you think they got it wrong. And if you've got new evidence, this is the time to send it in.
Okay, so let's move on. We're now at what is probably the most important part of this whole thing, your evidence. See, it's one thing to say a decision is wrong, but you need the paperwork to prove it. This is where you go from just disagreeing to actually demonstrating your case. So what kind of evidence are we talking about? Well, it depends on your case. If the issue is your income, then you're looking at bank statements, pay slips, or your business accounts. If it's about a disability or health condition, then you need things like medical reports, letters from your GP or specialist, or even care plans. You need to gather everything that backs up your story. And sometimes, the best evidence is something you might not even think of. Take this, for example. Let's say your child benefit was stopped because there's a question over where your child is living. A simple, official letter from their school confirming their attendance and address can be the crucial piece of evidence that wins your case.
Let's make this real. Think about Alex, a freelancer from Manchester. HMRC calculated his benefits based on his gross income of £30,000, but Alex knew they should have used his net income, after all his business expenses. He had every single payslip and invoice to prove it. That is exactly the kind of black and white evidence that makes a difference.
All right, so what if you do the mandatory reconsideration? And HMRC, they stick to their original decision. Stay with me here, because this is not the end of the road. Not at all. Your next step is to take your case to an independent tribunal. This is where you step completely outside of HMRC.
Now this slide shows you just how different these two stages are. The reconsideration, that's HMRC marking their own homework. But a tribunal appeal,
That's handled by a totally separate body, HM Courts and Tribunals Service. It's a formal legal process, and your case isn't just looked at by another staff member, it's heard by a legally qualified judge. The goal isn't to ask HMRC to recheck, it's to get an impartial, legally binding decision.
The way you kick this off is by filling out an appeal form, which is often the SSCS-5. On this form, you'll lay out exactly why you disagree with the decision. And here is a really important tip. You must include a copy of the Mandatory Reconsideration Notice letter you received from HMRC. If you don't, your appeal will be stopped before it even starts.
So, you've submitted your appeal, maybe you've had a hearing, and now you're waiting for that decision. The tribunal will send its ruling in writing to both you and to HMRC. Let's break down what could happen next.
Let's start with the good news. If the tribunal sides with you, brilliant! HMRC is then legally obligated to follow that ruling. This isn't a suggestion they can ignore. They have to do it. This will likely mean they have to recalculate your benefits, and quite often it means they'll need to issue back payments for the money you should have been getting all along.
But what if the decision doesn't go your way? It's a real blow for sure, but even then, it might not be over. You can sometimes challenge the tribunal's decision itself, but only on a very specific point, an error of law. This basically means you believe the judge didn't apply the law correctly to the facts of your case. It's a tricky area which really highlights why getting some expert advice can be so vital.
You know, this whole journey, from that first shocking letter to a possible tribunal hearing, it can be overwhelming. The paperwork is complex, the deadlines are strict, and honestly, the stress can be enormous. And that's why sometimes the smartest thing you can do is get a professional in your corner.
This is where a team like My Tax Accountant can be a real game changer. They take this complicated process and make it understandable. They know what evidence will make a difference and can help you get it all organized. They make sure every form is filled out perfectly so you don't get tripped up on a technicality. They can handle all the calls and letters with HMRC, which, let's face it, takes a massive weight off your shoulders.
Now, before we finish, it's really important for me to say this. Everything we've talked about today is for general guidance. Your situation is unique to you, and this is absolutely not a substitute for professional advice. Always talk to an expert before you make any big financial decisions.
So, if you're facing a decision you know is wrong and you're ready to make sure your side of the story is heard, the experts at My Tax Accountant are there to help. You can call them on 0208-570-8531, or you can drop them an email at info@mytaxaccountant.co.uk. And if you want to read through all this in more detail, you can find the full article, How to Challenge and Appeal a Benefit Decision by HMRC, over on the My Tax Accountant blog. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more clear, no-nonsense guidance from their team. Thanks for watching.